Welcome to 10 Talks, real conversations for champions with champions, where a champion life is a 10 life. Thank you for joining our team today. I'm Carlette Patterson, your head sports life coach at the Life Training Academy, and it's our desired outcome to share our passion for sports life coaching by training you to live a 10 life. You and your life matter. Let's get coached. Hi team, in this episode we're back with our own certified sports life coach, volleyball coach Hall of Famer, and former Olympian Laurie Corbelli. The last time we spoke with Laurie, we talked to her about her experience when the Olympics were canceled and about the upcoming 2020 Tokyo Olympics, which have been postponed. She shared her heart and her advice for the athletes heading into the Olympics in 2021 now. In this episode, we dive a little more into her own story and talk to her about her journey to becoming a champion that she is today. Enjoy our conversation. So, team, welcome to 10 Talks with Laurie Corbelli. It is such an honor to have a dear friend of mine and one of our certified sports life coaches, and just somebody that I love and admire on all three of our dimensions, personally, professionally, and philanthropically. So Laurie, welcome to the team and welcome to the Life Gym. And we're really excited to hear your stories and to hear winning strategies for life, because you're in a new season this year and it's really exciting for you to take us through it. So let's start with that. We'd love to hear your winning strategies for just kind of the power of your story. So share with us some of your story and what you've learned.
Well, that's a really big question for me. Like the story. Well, after my field of passion has been volleyball my whole life. Well, since I found out about it at age 14, 15. And I started as a player. I played for about 12 years. I coached for 32 years. And then now I'm currently retired. And so I kind of consider each of those a different season and maybe seasons within seasons, but my playing seasons, then my coaching career, and now my retirement career, which is awesome. It's a 10 for sure. And, I think that over all of these decades that my winning strategies for my happy life have mostly come from sports and have come from my teammates and my coaches and just the overall experience. And then they've carried on to the next phase and adapted and modified and grown in many ways, and then into the next phase. And so now I'm getting the benefit of all of these decades of just the interaction, the love, the passion that I got to share with all these people in my life, including my immediate family, my children are now in volleyball, believe it or not. And many people
That's what they were set up for. Absolutely.
I know. I just feel like so many friends have kids that will never do what their parents do. Never, ever, ever, and you hear that sometimes. And it makes me really proud that given all of the sacrifices that my husband and I, who coached together, how many sacrifices we gave to, that's life is a sacrifice, I know, but just how often we had to basically leave our children in the hands of other trusted and loved people, but missed some big moments, some small moments, but yet I don't look at that as a negative. I look at it as they were included in the family of volleyball, and they consider so many of our former players their sisters. And I think that those experiences for our children helped them grow into the young adults that they are now, and now they're in volleyball, so they must have loved something about it. And so
you and John certainly did something right. We know that for a fact. Thank you very much.
But the guilt that I can recall, the tears I had, the guilt, the phone calls with the daughter crying, why aren't you here for homecoming? You aren't even here to help me. They're good at putting guilt on us, and I was good at receiving it. That's for sure.
Laurie, let's talk about some mommy guilt right now. You're talking, you're stepping right into really that truth that
Mhm.
is, as women, I think, and as all of us, just as people, we want it all. We'd love to have it all. We love our professions. We love our personal life. We love giving back. But my understanding or my thought on it is we can have it all. We just can't have it all at the same time.
Mhm.
So when you watch your film about that and you think about the mommy guilt, like what were some of your winning strategies for really getting through that now that you can look back at it and see how it all turned out?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when you ask that for me is looking at my players. I would have one of them in a room as soon as I got off the phone or started to feel the guilt, and have a conversation or a big hug from a player that just made me realize once again, this is okay. My children are not in harm's way. They're being dearly loved, and I'm a better mom, I think, because I'm so fulfilled in what I get to do other than parenting. And I felt the balance for me, it worked because I felt that I was getting so much support from my team and the staff and my caregivers for my kids. And so I think just perspective, like I had to remember and remind myself often that these kids are not being harmed. This is not a negative for them unless I choose to make it that way. Or we all choose. I think they saw the radiance that I had for passion of what I did. And I wanted to share that part of it all with them, like find something you love. And we had that talk a lot. So I think just perspective and the people around you understanding and supporting you through the guilt and the harder times. And so, and it's I don't know that that really got rid of the guilt, but it really did help. It helped get through that guilty feeling and get to an appreciation of what I was allowed to do and able to manage somehow with help from so many people. And it just took a lot of people in volleyball family, immediate family, and inherited family.
So, Lori, what I love about just this conversation is I hear one of our tools, my support team, and
Hmm.
you have certainly stepped right into just sharing just the deep, just sharing how powerful it is to have a support team and not think that we're going to achieve all the things that we dream about and go for doing it ourselves. So how did you, as a young coach and then as a coach that really got to stay in your profession for a long time, raise your children? You and your husband worked coaching together. So how did you really find this support team? How did you trust it? Tell us your winning strategies around really igniting your support team to set you up for success.
I think the word you used, trust, is obviously in my mind. I credit my mom and dad for the trust that they instilled in their four daughters in just about everything we did, maybe almost to a fault. They just wanted us to learn to be accountable for the things we did, the things we thought, the people we were around, our friend choices, and they said, "We trust you guys. We trust you, and if you make the wrong decision, then you'll know it, and you'll learn to how to get through it." And my dad especially was like, for four girls and for him to not have a curfew, we thought, come on, Pastor Ray, what are you, a preacher at that?
Mm.
So we just were like, woohoo, this is really fun. But we knew that we didn't want to let him down, our parents down. We knew that they were putting a lot in our hands. And I just learned that I rather trust than immediately think the worst of someone, and have I do think I learned to gain trust with conversation and with relationship building. But I think for me, the support team that we all put together was really just based in trust and good communication with, being very clear and in what, for instance, my caregiver, what we liked and didn't like around our kids, but at the same time, not boxing her in to try to be us, but to be herself, and the kids, learning from her as well. There's other ways of raising kids. And I use the word raising kids from my caregiver because she was with them a lot, she and her husband. And so I say they definitely were it was teamwork to raise our children. But I do think trust and communication and listening, both ways of communication were just so critical. And then it came to John and I, who were traveling together away from the children and within a very stressful position. And we had to continue to keep that communication open and be adults about it, as much as sometimes we wanted to stomp our feet and shake our fists. We just had to realize what was at stake and how much we really knew that if we could just stay grown-up-ish, we would be able to be successful.
Yeah. Maybe that's going to be one of our new winning strategies, is we can just all stay grown-up-ish. We're going to all make it through this. Yeah, I think they're calling that adulting now in the next gen world, is everybody's getting into having to claim this adulting, but I like the grown-upness. I'm going to go with that as well. Yeah.
I enjoy making up words.
Yeah. So team, I want you to hear part of Laurie's winning strategy in terms of trust was communication, and her husband and her partner really thinking about what matters to them, what's important to them, understanding from a culture perspective, very clear boundaries, and being able to articulate and communicate it. So as we talk about winning strategies, our tool for this is basically what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And what doesn't work for us is just as valuable and just a huge learning tool for us to really have the courage and the grace to understand how to communicate what doesn't work. So Laurie, I want to step into your professional career as a Division I volleyball coach. So when you were handling all of the pressures, and we certainly know there's anxiety as a coach and there's anxiety with your players. Anxiety is a big performance barrier right now in our world, and just the desire to perform at a very high level, and then that as a high achiever really wanting to make sure I got it right. So take us through some winning strategies for you, first of all, as a coach, how you handled being in a high pressure situation, and then you can share maybe what you learned from your players or with your players.
To be perfectly honest, I struggled a lot with anxiety. I think just looking back in the 70s and 80s when I was competing internationally, there was no talk about anxiety. I thought I just lacked confidence. I thought, why do I have these jitters? I'm not really nervous. I know I'm prepared. And then I would still have these jitters, or this feeling of uncertainty. And I sometimes really wish that it had been discovered. It probably was discovered, but there was no way it was ever going to come my direction. We were pretty secluded when we were training. But, I do think, I wonder what my career could have looked like had I known that I had a very high levels of anxiety. When I look back at not only playing, but coaching, I typically feel like one of my first solutions was to reach out and rely heavily on people in my support team. I relied heavily on John, my husband. I relied heavily on, when I was a player, my teammates. I had a couple of teammates who could kind of sense in me when I was in a big match against Russia or Cuba, and I was not myself, and they could tell. And I'd reach out to them, and they would talk with me, because for some reason they were just fine, and I couldn't figure out why I wasn't just fine. And so it was just, I once it became much more, vogue to the anxiety element of people's personalities, I started to realize that that's what was going on with me. And I started to just obviously read a lot, what are some ways to cure anxiety, from your diet to meditation to reading and those things have all helped me, but I still believe it's one-on-one, or me on one or two or three people who care a lot about me and know me well and can talk me through why, how to help me calm myself. So I think over the years, again, decades and decades of learning to calm yourself through different venues and different ways. But I think my core way is relying heavily on others to not only give me emotional and verbal support, but sometimes physical support. I would feel so sick sometimes. I was so anxious and hardly realized what was going on. So I'm I'm very grateful for the people who were there, my support team that that didn't make fun of it or didn't think I was mentally ill or what, but understood that's part of who Laurie is and her personality, and they saw the growth and the way that I learned to be able to fend off some of the anxiety that was really unnecessary. And I still get it. You know, I still have to use those tools when I'm working for preparing a speech or you know, just about anything that I feel like I really want to do it. I want to be prepared and I want to make sure I do it and I'm happy with it when I'm done with it.
Team, I hope you can just hear the courage and the vulnerability that Laurie is graciously sharing with us. You know, right now, when we think about anxiety, we're not sure. It feels like such a big word, and it's, you know, it's out there, and we're not sure what to do with it. But Laurie has demonstrated that this word and this feeling has been out there a long time. We just haven't really been able to talk about it so openly and to dive into what are the tools for this. And so what you got to hear is really Laurie sharing her journey through the Olympics, which has been amazing, that we definitely want to dive in and hear. So she's been an Olympian, she's been a coach, she's been a parent, and I just want you to hear that thread of anxiety that it has actually been a part of her story. And I want you to really notice it's a part of her story. It hasn't become the dominating factor of her story. And what's so valuable about just being able to share this is that the winning strategies that I heard that you know, I love and know I too really rely on these relationships. And just really having those relationships that I can say, I'm freaking out, or oh my gosh, what should I do? And what I really appreciate about Laurie, about what you've said, is that those people that you trusted gave you love and support. There was no judgment. It wasn't like get over it or anything from that perspective. It was very much about just, you know, whether they needed to give you a high five, a hug, or an ear and just listen, whatever it was. So team, as we think about anxiety and we think about performing and going for the life that we want, I want you to be able to see that the performance barrier of anxiety is just, it's somewhat normal if we want to use that word. I don't say it casually at all, because when it pertains to us, it's really a big deal. And I know that in Laurie's story, when she's performing at the Olympics, and anxiety is definitely a big deal. But I would say too that we are in our Olympics every day in life, and all of us are going for that gold medal. We're going for the things that matter. And you got to really hear Laurie say that she trusted herself and her relationships, and she also really anchored in pushing through the fear of anxiety and pushing into what really mattered to her. And what mattered was performing at the level that she could feel proud of. And again, that would be her own definition of success, not anybody else's. And she was doing all this for her own self in terms of what her standard of excellence was. And we want to give that to you as you think about what's your definition of success, what are the performance barriers that are showing up, what's your action to change, and how can you put a support team around you to really help you become who you want to be. And that's what's so beautiful about the story today, and about really getting to step into Laurie Corbelli's life and get to watch that to go for greatness, we're going to go through failure. We're going to go through anxiety. We're going to go through things that aren't so fabulous, the things that we wish weren't written in our story. And yet, Laurie, as you're able to really step into just about being inducted into the Hall of Fame for volleyball, which is another chapter that is stepping into legacy, let's move into that legacy piece and let you just share a bit about just, first of all, congratulations on such a huge honor. And you know, you have just been such a beautiful part of volleyball from the minute you got handed a volleyball and until, you know, continues, whether it's from generational with your kids or just the players. And I know that my daughter had the huge honor of being able to play for Laurie, and that was certainly a 10 for our family. And it's been amazing to just have the opportunity to learn from an Olympian, to be able to be on the support team of an Olympian and of a legendary coach. So let's talk legacy. What do you think volleyball gave you as a legacy piece?
Oh boy, I I almost have to say, what has it not given me? It's just all I know. And in fact, just as it goes through my brain really fast, it was this flash of the fear that I had of leaving coaching. You know, who would I be without volleyball? Like it wouldn't be going to another job. It wouldn't be going to play anywhere, of course, at this age. It wasn't going to, it's just no more daily volleyball. Like who is Laurie without it? And I remember thinking even a few years ago when it was really, I knew that it was looming, retirement was looming, and thinking, what would that look like? I couldn't, it would make me sick to my stomach. So I think it was really scary to start thinking about not being in volleyball because it has given me so much, and it's almost all I know. It felt like that was all I know. I now have discovered I know a little bit more than
Yeah,
that.
just a few things, yes.
But you're just in this little, sometimes you just feel like you're in a bubble of volleyball, and it's constant and it's always going on. But I really do look back at all those years of both playing and being coached, um, brutally, um, coaching tough times. And I think it's the way it's changed me most, or shaped me maybe, is I've learned so much about, I don't know, I hate saying the word hard work, but I don't hate saying it. I'm reluctant to say it because they speak so much now about working hard and working smart. But I feel like I'm a little bit overboard, even with a personal trainer I have now. I am doing every last rep until, even if he miscounted, I'll know he miscounted, and I'm doing each one of them.
There's that champion mindset team. You could definitely
Yes.
hear a champion, yes.
Oh my goodness. And I just think, Laurie, just cheat one time and see how that feels. But I learned,
Or not a winning strategy.
or
Yeah.
not. And I don't have that in me. I really value integrity. I've always felt like I don't want to come up with an answer that doesn't come naturally to me because of honesty. And I just can't, I'm terrible at hiding anything. If I do it wrong, I will just probably come out and say, I did this wrong. That's just, I learned so much about what commitment really means. I take commitment very, very seriously. I, it's almost to a point of fault when I feel like someone has not lived up to their commitment to me, especially as a teammate or as a coach of a player. I take it pretty personally because I just look at that word as being so important in life to to being true to who we really are. Then there's got to have an understanding of what that word commitment means. Um, I think, oh boy, accepting feedback and accepting criticism. I really was not very good at my teen years, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s. Oh, wait, still not really very good at it. And I struggle because I want, like, even as a coach, I want to show, oh, this is how you could do this better. But, I love to read, and I love to read articles about, and I saw an article the other day that feedback is just the perspective of one person. It may or may not be. And is that really going to help someone be better when you give your feedback to someone else? Oh my gosh, my whole brain was just boggled with this. It's an amazing article from the Harvard Review, or one of them, and Psychology Today. And I thought, boy, it's just so important how we either learn to give feedback, how critical information, or being critical to others, and you don't think you are, but it is received that way. I just feel like it's happening. It happens all over the world. Business world is just brutal, if you ask me. I love the sports world. However, it was the coach player thing that I loved challenging myself to present feedback to a player with compassion and with, not because I didn't think they could handle what I thought truthfully, but I just wanted to let them know I'm not the god of volleyball. Here's what I see, and I want to share that with you and see what you think. And I just don't see a lot of coaches these days doing that. I see so much of the authority and the the underachiever, or the person that's just not quite good enough. And it gets in this dimension that just doesn't feel comfortable to me. And yet I remember learning to be coached and really having a lot of respect for my coaches. However, I always wanted to know why. And I felt like that helped me understand what they meant, and it kind of confirmed that I understood what they were trying to tell me to change or to do or whatever. And so I don't know. I think just accepting feedback and especially criticism in a relationship, in a marriage, it is so difficult, I think, for so many people. And I think I've gotten so much better at that I can pat myself on the back for 1 second about that one.
Yeah, a little victory dance there for a moment. Yeah, we'll take it. So
Yeah.
that is a legendary champion talking to you, team, really just about how difficult it is to hear feedback, because first of all, as a high achiever, we want to be getting it right. So for somebody to point out that maybe we're not getting it right, it can come in from a defensive perspective rather than an open heart and an open mind, knowing that, hey, all information is good information, and how can I take that information and use it for whatever purpose I'm going for and whatever I'm really working on. So Laurie, the other thing I heard that's so valuable is we're talking about transferable skills here. I know so many times champions devote their life to either being an athlete or being in a particular career or even being a mom and then entering into the workforce. And so many times when we look back on our film, we think our resume doesn't, no, we don't really know how to have our resume reflect all the things that we've learned. And you've really learned so much just through the game of volleyball, from being an Olympian and being able to be a coach. And how would you recommend our listeners and our team really be able to use those transferable skills? I love what you said in regards to your next season. You have discovered that you are more than a volleyball coach, or that volleyball gave you, what did it not give you? So from a transferable skills, what would you say the gift of time inside your career of volleyball gave you that you're now using in your next season?
I think for me, the gift that it's given me is positive self-talk about realizing that my experiences have proven that I can be resilient, that I can come back from failure, that it doesn't mean I'm a bad person or a bad, mom or wife or whatever. If I don't do something perfectly or fail at something a little, I feel like I can talk myself now into understanding whatever I'm going to go into, I can go in with my eyes wide open, knowing what I've been able to accumulate. I don't know, that's kind of a lot, but I also think, I know people learn from watching a lot, and that I think that's super important. For when I was a coach, I know my players watched every move I made. They watched every interaction I'd have with a teammate. If they were in the gym, they'd watch me talk to my staff. They'd comment on what I'm wearing and you look professional, you don't look professional, whatever it is, and
again, all information is good information.
Yes, and so I take that very seriously as well, just like commitment. I know they're watching, and as the coach of the team, I felt that responsibility to make sure I was projecting and being as positive as possible, as honest and truthful as I am. I wanted them to see who Laurie is, and know that I have a heart and I have a soul and I have a brain and I have a lot of love for what I do. And I wanted that to show all the time. And as a mom, I was the same way. I know the kids are watching and they're going to do what you do in so many ways. And I really, really wanted, I was real careful with my words and careful with my actions. And I
And
will continue to do that as I go into my next season, knowing that I've had success at doing those things. That gives me a lot of confidence whenever, whatever my next season is, don't know yet, but whatever it is, I can enter it with a lot of confidence.
And what are some of the key components we say from our stat system team? If you think about on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is low and 10 is fabulous. And we challenge everybody to be statting up everything you're doing from every time you invest your time, your energy, or your emotions. Is this a 10 for me? So, Laurie, as you stepped into your next season, I know as just having the honor of being your coach that we've had a commitment that your next season would be nothing but tens. And everything was about being able to have the honor of you choosing nothing but tens. So many times when we're in other seasons or we're building a career, we're going to have some cardio and we're going to have some things that we don't have total control over. As you step into next, what are some tens that you've really discovered about yourself and that you're excited about doing in this next season?
Well, what's been fun for me over the 2 years so far of transition, uh, I, as I start to, even before, when I was first retired and I was thinking, what do I want to do? And I had been thinking, oh, someday I might blank, someday I might blank. Well, then I was in that someday and
That
I
someday showed up.
they showed up. And I realized after being coached by you and going through the just such a great journey with life outside of volleyball and having so many friends and family to support and talk things through, I realized I really didn't want to do some of those things that I thought I would want to do. I thought they'd be a lot less stressful. Oh, when I'd coach, that looks so easy. I'm just going to do that when I'm done coaching. Or I'm just going to, broadcast, or I'm going to, do private lessons, or I'll do summer camps. And I don't want to do any of those right now. I've thought about them and I've thought seriously about some of them, but I still haven't been able to come to what it is that I want to do. But I just feel like it's still out there waiting for me to discover through all kinds of discussions, not unlike this one, that and putting myself in positions like conventions and talks with you and talks with girlfriends and sisters and people who know me well about what does it look like for Laurie to have a 10 life after this. And I love that that's been guiding me, because I really think if I had not have had this experience with Patterson Sports Ventures, I would have taken something that wasn't a 10 for me. I would have thought, oh, well, I could really use a couple extra dollars cash here and there, or, oh, I'll just learn to love it. I'll learn to do. And I can't tell you how many times I've thought of something or considered something. And I think I've said no more these last 2 years of being retired than I ever did when I was swamped with stuff. And I kept saying yes. So I've learned that it needs to be a 10. And I have the luxury of, especially in my financial situation now, I have some luxury that all those years have paid off, and I'm getting to do that. And so I have to honor that too, with reason. But yeah, I'm just trying to really thoughtfully kind of and mindfully just come up with what's in my heart right now. And it's just going to take a little bit more time. But I'm
Well,
looking forward to it.
yeah, the good news is from a muscle memory perspective, your heart is beautiful. You have been practicing love and compassion and drive as a competitively great person. that doesn't change whether you're an athlete or a coach. That's who you are, is you are committed to competitive greatness. And what's really exciting, team, that I want you to hear from Laurie and be able to practice in your own life, because we're here to share Laurie's story and then to ignite the power of team and get you coached up. It's your turn to take what you can learn from Laurie as a person, as a coach, as a mom, as a friend, as a sister, as a daughter. You heard all the amazing roles that she plays, and she's starting to figure out what are her tens. And in different seasons, those tens could have been different according to whatever her desired outcome was. So team, as you think about building your life and creating a life that is a legacy for you, and you will be in the Hall of Fame of the life that you're starting to create, we want it to be nothing but tens. And so you really having the opportunity to question mindfully and thoughtfully, how do I feel about this? What is a 10 for me? And really taking that transferable skill that Laurie shared, is that she learned to really understand what mattered to her, and also understand herself, that she's going to go for something in a big way. So it's not just about kind of, being recreational about anything. That's just not any part of her. And you're getting to hear how valuable the training is that even as she steps into the next season, she wants to take that discipline, that commitment, that passion, and train for her next 10, and really use the muscle memory and the skills that she's been building up for years and years. So we're going to challenge you to do the same thing. We want you to hear and watch your life film. Think about the things that matter to you in your personal life, what's really significant to you, and in your professional life, how do you define success? And philanthropically, who has given you hope? And so, Laurie, let's step into that philanthropic dimension that is so fun to really talk about. Who has given hope in your life, and who do you give hope to now?
Well, this one is the one that makes me almost cry, because it's to me, my family has been everything. My mom, dad, and three sisters. My what do you call it? The origin, your family of origin, or whatever your initial, the group that was. Even though divorce was hit, we were hit by divorce after 30 years. It's still, gosh, those were such formative years for my sisters and I. 4 girls in 5 years. I mean, how could you not just be each other's lifeblood? And just, it's just, and mom and dad, they were our everything growing up. And so they always gave us hope. We went downtown Dallas on one Sunday every month, and we were in the middle of poverty, bringing any clothes, shoes, food we had extra at our house. From the age of 2 years old, we were down there once a month to just see that. They just made sure we knew to be appreciative. We had people that did not have what we had, and we didn't have very much. Dad made $18,000 a year,
Yeah.
so, and mom taught piano lessons twice a day. So we still were taught, you must still appreciate and give hope to others, and give to whatever. So I think for me, I look back to my years, and it's my mom and dad and my sisters have always given me hope. They've been there every step of the way for me, no matter, not just volleyball, academics, relationships, big decisions. So we've lost my dad since, and mom's 88. So the sisters are all, now we're in a whole nother season where we're supporting Harriet, our mother, and really trying to make that work. I just give hope. Honestly, I feel like my gift of giving hope to others is just being authentic, being who I am. I'm super trustworthy, and I love to trust right off the bat. And I feel like that helps me really. I got myself in trouble doing that a little bit too much before, But I
That's
feel
just a learning experience. That's all information is good. All experiences are good. What can we learn?
that's right. But I just, yeah, I love interaction. I love speaking to young, especially young volleyball players or young athletes who are trying to achieve something in sports, since that's my kind of my realm. But really in anything. I've given talks on how cool it is to be being on a team is the bomb. As back in the 90s, I had a player who everything was the bomb, you know. So I took a speech and turned it into it was to a big music or choirs and bands, and it was mostly girls. And I spoke about how it's being on a team is the bomb, and I loved that speech. It was one of my favorite speeches I ever gave, and it was so easy for me to just to give that and to share, because I had so many instances to share why it was so amazing, and just giving hope to the youth of America and to the people that I speak to or am around. That I don't know, even I think of some of my former players who are now moms, and I get to meet their children, and I love every second of that. And because I love children, and I love finding out what they're into in school, and then encouragement. And I would love to come and see you. Can I come to one of your games? Can I come to one of, you know, that's how I give hope. And I try to smile a lot.
Team, I want you to hear the currency that Laurie so beautifully shares with us. In that currency of hope, she gives her time, she gives her emotion, she gives her energy, she gives a smile. And the currency that I want to really encourage you to open your mind, your heart, and really step into training for is the currency of you. You're hearing Laurie really talk about her journey of discovering herself, discovering that she has anxiety as one component, that's one part that she wasn't really sure what to do with. She accepted the good and the bad and the not so fabulous, and just kept working through everything so that she could discover really her best self. And this is what I want to think about today as we step into thanking Laurie for really sharing her journey with us, and challenging you, team, to go out and start to really be that champion in your own life. What matters to you? What's important to you? What are you willing to do the work on and really do the training on? How are you going to push through the things that are getting in the way of you having really the joy and the fun in something that's important to you? So it's not easy. You certainly heard in the very beginning, we talked about that hard work. Hard work is just one component. Whatever's going to show up for you, we want it to matter. We want it to be a 10. And we want you to, number one, really engage in those relationships, because that's what's going to get you through the good times, the bad times, the not so fabulous times. It's all going to be about those people that you can hug, give a high five to, thank, hang out with. Whatever it is, I want to really anchor you in the fact that you and your life matter, and who you hang out with matters, your support team matters. Have the courage to go for what you want and ask the people that you love to come beside you and support you. So Laurie, thank you for being on our support team, for being in our family, and for just sharing you with us. It has been nothing but a 10, and we're so excited about your next season.
Thank you. I've really, really enjoyed it, and I wish the best to the whole team.
Nothing but 10s, team.
That's right.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. We'd like to get you coached up, so head over to iTunes and Spotify and hit subscribe. And remember, a champion life is a 10 life. You and your life matter. Create a life that you love, give hope to others, and be and choose nothing but 10s. Be you, the world needs you. Go to lifetrainingacademy.com to start your training and get coached.